Good evening. All right. So I went ahead and just hit the live button on the social medias. So we're up and running there. All right. Putting in tons of hours at work. Get that paycheck. All right. Hope everyone's had a good weekend. Good, nice long weekend. Let's see. What did we do? We spent pretty much our weekend working. Spent time working, organizing and cleaning, all that kind of good stuff. So a lot of household chores was done this weekend. So that was always good. So I'm kind of like worn out. Not to mention I've been working and revamping a few things on my end. So, just trying to stay busy and, keep the brain going, all that kind of good stuff. But welcome to Sunday night prep. I appreciate y'all coming in to hang out with us tonight. What we like to do on Sundays, or actually it's Monday night prep, but what we like to do on the uh, Sunday is go through the broader markets and take a look at everything, kind of get a feel for where everything is at, and kind of get a better picture of what may come this week, and kind of make our predictions based off of that. Of course, number one prediction, of course, is price always pays. So no matter what, yeah, let's kind of dig into things from the get go. Now, we got Quad Witch out of the way. We also got the Fed out of the way. Now, Powell kind of gave us a curveball this past go around, saying that there's going to be at least two more possible rate hikes this year. So the market's having to kind of digest that news, although it does seem that the market doesn't quite agree with that. So we've just been kind of uh, continuing to push higher with the notion that the Fed is pretty much done with their rate hike cycle, and now it's just a matter of pausing. Now, I have been keeping a pretty decent close eye on the CME futures here, which is just the probabilities for the next Fed meeting. And as you can see, the current rate is 525. It does seem that we are already pricing in another rate hike for the July meeting. But then after, July, that's when it kind of gets a little more interesting. If we look at September, we can see that we're just kind of staying at 550. Same thing with November and December. So it looks like the market wants to suggest that there's only going to be one rate hike, not two. So of course we'll have to kind of keep an eye on it. This is something that I kind of watch on a week to day basis. But yeah, it is interesting that the Fed has come out and said, well, we wanted to take a little bit of a pause here, get in a little bit more data, and then kind of go from there. But it does seem to suggest that the Powell is sticking to their guns. We've gone through the quiet period, so now this week we get a ton of Fed speakers going into this week. It seems that we have a Fed speaker every single day this week, starting with Bullard tomorrow at bright and early, 6:30 in the morning. We also have Powell testimony on Wednesday and Thursday, not to mention a few others such as Cook, Jefferson. We got Waller on Thursday also. And then as far as the other economic data calendar goes, we still got our jobless claims. That's our weekly jobless claims. But I can see here on Thursday, we got Chairman Powell testimony. And then, of course, up here we have Chairman Powell testimony on Wednesday yet again. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of Fed talk. We'll get a better understanding about, how, certain members feel about the pause, and how they feel about the outlook for the future of the rate hikes and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, things could possibly get a little bit volatile. Of course, there's going to be a lot of eyes on Powell on Wednesday for sure. So yeah, we definitely want to keep our eyes and ears peeled out for any kind of headlines that may come out of that testimony there. And yeah, just kind of go in from there. Now, as far as this week goes, just to get some of the housekeeping things out there. Let's see, I'll be live with you guys in the morning tomorrow and Wednesday, but on Thursday and Friday. I will be traveling down to Orlando, where we'll be having our annual Stock Dads staff meeting. So you won't have me Thursday or Friday. I'll probably be around, but we will be focusing on the workings of Stock Dads in Orlando. So just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. But of course, y'all are more than happy to have a member live trading session. That's always open for y'all guys to keep things going. But all right, let's see. Friendly reminder: if you have an open mic, be sure to click that mute button unless you want to speak. I don't mind if you speak. Just know that I can hear, like Ryan there. Just heard you there, buddy. So I'm going to mute you. If you have a red mute button next to your name, that means I have gone in and server muted you at some point. So be sure. If you do want to say something, feel free to, but let's just keep it going here. All right. So let's get into the nitty gritty technicals of the market here. As always, if you have any ticker requests that you want me to take a look at, feel free to type them out in the stock chat there, or if you're on YouTube or Facebook or anything like that, feel free to type them out there and I'll take a look at them as well. First of all, we always want to start with the main indices. Now, here looking at the SPY, we've had an incredible 3 weeks of trading, just an absolute move higher off of the lows, and we've had this nice daily squeeze here that we compressed out of and pushed on ahead, and you can see that we're now quite deep into the daily squeeze here already. So yeah, we've had a pretty good move here, and things do seem to be extended. And I'm not going to use the word overbought. I'm just going to use the word extended. We are trading at +3 ATR on the daily and even on the weekly, which doesn't happen, especially on the weekly, a whole lot. Usually when we get into these +3 ATR levels, that just means we could use a little bit of a cool down, which is what I'm mainly waiting for patiently. At this point, we've had a good, nice long run up. Here it gets a little bit frothy to buy up at these levels, and I will let me pull this up. I don't know why I must have closed it at some point. But if we look at the put to call ratio compared to the SPX, you can see here. Let me fix this up real quick. Let me hit the comparison tool. No, okay, apply them. All right, so this is the put to call ratio with a 10-day moving average. You can see here that the moving average is well below the 0.8 line. This just means there are really a lot of bulls out there. Everybody and their mother is long at this point. There's a lot of complacency. This market is just extremely frothy at this moment in time. So, when I'm looking at charts and, I'm looking, there's a lot of things out there, including names like Tesla, Apple, Microsoft. There's a lot of things out there that have been on these incredible runs. And, now that we've had these good moves, we've taken a lot of profit off the table on some of these major names. Now is the point to be having a wish list or a buy list out there that you want to get in on a name to buy a pullback on. So looking here at the SPY, you can see I got a few levels marked up here. And, with a weekly squeeze here on SPY, this thing can absolutely indeed keep pushing on higher. And even if we take a look at the monthly time frame, you have a possible slingshot squeeze forming here on the monthly chart with upward thrust. And, if we use our Fibonacci extensions and our fib retracement tools, we can see that our targets give us, pretty decent size projections here, talking about a move to about the 510 to even the 600. That would be an extreme push to the upside on the SPY. So if you think that this market is, we're just having some kind of short squeeze rally and, this is just, we're still in a bear market, then I hate to break it to you that we're definitely not in a bear market anymore. We're definitely in a bull market. We're 20% plus off the lows. That is technically speaking a bull market. So yes, we are now in a bull market, and as you can tell, and especially if you pay attention to the intraday price movements, you can see that the aggressiveness from market buyers and market participants, they're just more aggressive than market sellers. So that is why we continue to have these incredible moves higher to the upside. Is just that the sellers, frankly, just don't have much of a spine. Now, don't get me wrong, I am looking forward to a deeper pullback. There's a lot of names on my shopping list that I would love to buy a dip and maybe get into some new squeeze positions and push higher. And if and when we do get a dip, I do think that is a buyable dip opportunity. So what I am looking for here on in particular in the SPY is I really just want to dip to, either a retest of the 430 level or at least a retest of the daily 21 EMA, which is right here at about that 427 mark, which would also give us a new test of that 425 support level here on the SPY. So that's all I'm looking for here on the SPY. We had a nice little inside candle bar uh, here on Friday. We'll see if markets want to continue to kind of cool down some and continue to take a breath, and then we can march higher. But I do believe that, just basing it on the participation in general of the market, we're seeing market participation from small caps, from equal. If we take a look at the RSP, you'll see that the equal weighted S&P 500 is participating. Bonds are acting properly, the dollar is acting properly. So, there's a lot of signals out there for long-term suggestions that things can continue to progress to the upside. All right, so let's move on to the Qs. Of course, the Nasdaq has been probably one of the most impressive things that I've seen in a while. The Nasdaq is up about 38% year to date, and this is the best start of the year that it has ever had in the history of the U.S. market. So the Nasdaq is absolutely rip roaring. Now it's one of those things too. It's just a little bit extended. Let me pull off these lines because I don't want to clear off my drawing tool. I just want to clear off these lines to kind of show that how far extended we are from the main moving averages. Isn't that suspicious? You know, Not really. So we've had the banking crisis or the regional bank crisis, which you could argue it may still be ongoing, but they're still utilizing the emergency funds that the Fed set up. Uh, but what's kind of dragged us out of pretty much doom and gloom is really the story of AI and the hopes that the Fed is done and that we're going to be starting a new cycle. And now the question you could probably ask is AI the new bubble? And sure, you can probably ask that question, but we don't know a lot as of yet. AI is still pretty new, and we're all trying to get a grasp of the crazy countless possibilities that there may be with AI. And we've seen it with large cap names such as Nvidia. Every tech name out there is having a field day with AI. Oracle, Adobe, who just released their earnings. Adobe had record revenue uh, just from their AI stuff. So I mean, AI is here and it's here to stay, and that's really just kind of what dragged us out of the regional bank crisis that could have obviously turned worse, but tech is just rip roaring. And if you look at these charts here too, on the Nasdaq, sure, it's definitely rip roaring, and semiconductors are leading the way here. Nvidia, of course, has had a field day, and it's at new all-time highs. Now, looking at the Qs, this is a pretty strong weekly candle here yet again. We took a little bit of a breather the prior week, and off we off we went. We pushed up to about that 370 level, 372. Now you can see that we are a little extended. Just saying that there's a plenty of air between price and the main moving averages. We haven't really revisited the daily 21. We haven't gotten a reversion back to the mean since about a month ago, a little over a month ago. So a deeper pullback will be welcome. It is very unhealthy for markets to continue to just absolutely skyrocket. And you see that a lot with the meme names and all that kind of good stuff. If you take a look, every time you get a huge move to the upside, you tend to have an aggressive move to the downside. And that's generally because you haven't really based and formed any levels of support. Now, you do have some support down here at 350. So if we do get a pullback all the way down to 350, yeah, that'd be a fantastic buy the dip opportunity. So with the Qs, sure they are extended, but man, this weekly candle looks pretty darn good to me. You still have good weekly momentum on the squeeze. Even the daily squeeze is still pretty frothy here. You still have upward signals on the hour, excuse me, on the daily. And then if we go over here to the hour, we can see that we still don't have a whole lot of cracks underneath the hood. Also, you can see that the hourly chart, every time that we've come back to the hourly 21, it's been a pretty good buy the dip last week. So we'll see if that is holds true again this week. Of course, we are still a little bit in possible an overbought situation here on the hourly, but I still don't have a down arrow here to negate these signals over here on the hourly. So I would at least need a downward arrow. And then once we get a downward arrow, I would look for this to kind of come back to the mid level and then give me a new buy signal down at the midpoint. So even if we do get a dip, I am looking for signals to reverse back to the upside. So be on the lookout for that. Of course, the NASDAQ support is at, all the way down here at about that 352, 350 area. And if we want to do the same thing with the monthly chart, we can. Let's see if we do get a, let's see, let me fix that. Sometimes my Zoom likes to double click for some reason because my mouse is kind of whack. See, I don't know why it does that. All right, so let's go here and, just for fun, let's project our NASDAQ move here from there to there. All right, let's zoom out. All right, and this is a measurement of the COVID low to the all-time high to the swing low, and that gives you a target right here at about the 500 level. And if that doesn't, kind of motivate you to understand that, if this is a new possible big bull market rally or blow off top, we still have plenty of targets to the upside that we can work with, starting with 405, 400, 405, then 450, and even the 500 levels. So, yeah, it's definitely hard to be a market bear. And, in my notes over the past few sessions, I've had it in there, it's hard. Do you really want to be a bear? Granted, I do have hedges on at this point just because I understand that the market is kind of frothy, just based upon the put to call ratio and the fact that there is a little bit, I would say, I would argue like a little bit of a slowdown on the VIX. Now, I know the VIX, it's garbage. It's just going lower and lower and lower nonstop. It can honestly stay down here at the 14 levels, to be honest with you. I mean, this thing is just absolutely, it's, yeah, it's bad. there's no easy, clean way to say, what is the VIX, and the VIX is absolutely just death. Now, you could argue that the rate of downward pressure that it is sustaining has probably slowed down a little bit. So but I'm not really, kind of say, okay, this is where you want to just hardcore buy puts. No, that's not at all what I'm trying to say. Is that maybe just kind of pay attention to it, see what happens on the week end basis, see where it's at. Obviously, if the VIX gets back above 16, sure, you can take note of it. But even still, there's no fear in this market whatsoever. Any dip that we've had uh, has just been aggressively bought up. As you can see, every time that we've had a dip, it's only been about a 1-day candle. And that's it. That's all you get, So even on the 1 hour chart, I mean, you don't get much of a dip. I mean, the buyers are just absolutely aggressive. They're eating up anything and everything. Nvidia is just absolutely in a rip roar. There's nothing bearish at all about lifetime highs. So when you look at a name like Nvidia, you're like, okay, well, how high can this thing keep going? And that's where fib levels and fib extensions come in handy. And here, if you take the previous high to the swing low, put you a 161 up there, and that gives you a target of at least almost close to 500. And sure, this is a pretty darn bullish candle here on the weekly chart for Nvidia. So Nvidia, yeah, it might not be done just yet. Even the momentum on the squeeze is still going. Sure, you got a little bit of an over you got overbought conditions here on the daily, but there's absolutely nothing bearish about lifetime highs. Now, Microsoft did hit lifetime highs on Friday, came in some off of that, hit 351.50. We'll see if it can come back in, retest the lows here. But when I'm kind of looking at this, I'm kind of reminded of Apple, how it hit its all-time high here a few weeks ago on the 5th of June, and we retraced just a little bit, only to, you know, push on higher into the 187 level here on Apple. So if we can use Apple as an example of, what may be to come for Microsoft, maybe that's something that we can look into. But yeah, there's absolutely nothing bearish about the Microsoft chart here. Ever since its earnings gap up, it has just been on an absolute uh, move higher. Now, I will say that when it comes to semiconductors and especially tech, the one thing that I might be looking for some downside is AMD. AMD had a little bit more of a deeper pullback than most of the names out there. So, AMD, they held their event last week and they introduced their super AI chip or whatever. That's not even going to be broadly available until next year. So it was just a big show announcement, so to speak. And yeah, you could just kind of been selling off of that from the highs of 132. So if we do get some follow through and some broader market weakness and a pullback within tech, I'm going to be looking at AMD to at least come back in and retest this 115.80 level down here. And once you get to this level, you definitely want to see it hold. Otherwise, you got a pretty decent gap to fill all the way down to the 109 area. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on AMD if we do see some tech weakness or a little bit of a breather on tech. So yeah, going to keep an eye on that. Moving on to the small caps. The small caps, they've had this fantastic move. We traded this one off the breakout level here at 180. Took profit up here at about the 187 mark. And now we're just kind of hanging out. We're just chilling at the 618 retracement off of the all-time high and the swing low. And now we're just trying to base and figure out where does the market want to move next. Obviously, you do have a nice tight range that you can work with. If you do get a break of about 189, then sure, you can target this 191.50. And then, of course, if you break down below 185, look for a retest of either the daily 21 EMA or the 180 breakout level. So yeah, the IWM, it's great to see that the small caps are participating. So, take a look at your favorite junk names, your penny stocks, if they're starting to look kind of frothy. If you have a favorite one, have that written down to see if this market wants to continue to rotate. Anytime that we've seen tech have a decent down day, the IWM has been leading the charge, and we just get that nice broader market rotation. So definitely pay attention to the small caps as things continue to set up. Obviously, this 187 level is kind of a big deal here if we can break through. Remember, the 618 retracement level is really a good level for bears to kind of battle it out, and you're getting that here as we speak. So watch for a break above. See if we can't get a push towards 191.50, maybe even to 195, and then your next step would be about that 200 psychological level. So IWM and the small caps, keep an eye on those, and of course the Dow has had a really good day on Thursday. As you can see here with this nice sharp candle to the upside, we've gotten some pretty darn good volume coming in. You have a weekly squeeze that is firing to the upside, which is good to see. You got some upward thrust here. And generally, we just need to see it clear this really this 350 level. If we can clear 350, then you're pretty much off to the races here on the diamonds. You can see here on the daily, it looks pretty good. You had this nice little breakout above 342.60, and you're getting a retest. So ideally, I would like to see this level hold, let the moving average catch up a little bit, and then push up. But if it wants to continue to dip, it's not the end of the world by any means. Now, when it comes to the Dow, we of course have to kind of remember the weightings of the sectors here. Now, when we're focusing on names like Dow, you got XLV and a little bit more of the financials. Now, as far as the Dow goes, its weightings are a little bit weird. UNH is the highest weighted name within the Dow, and you can see it's really been having a tough time. And you'll see this with other healthcare names, including Humana. Also, UNH is just kind of having a little bit of a troublesome time here. You did get a gap lower off of some news, and you can't even get back to the daily 21 off of it. This weekly candle looks absolutely miserable. So for UNH, if you want to take on a daily trade here, look for that break of Friday's low at 458 and see if you can get a retest of this prior support level at 448. This 448, it's 10 points lower, but this has acted as, pretty decent support in the past. So 448 is going to be your, possible hold level as a day trade idea. And then if you want to try to play a bounce here or a possible support zone, sure, that could be an idea to entertain. Also, you do have a weekly squeeze, massive volume here, just based on that news, but you do have some pretty nasty signals here on the weekly in general. So, if I were to try to bet on this, it would be to the downside. And then, especially if we flush this 448 level, yeah, things can get a little bit more nastier. And, my next spot here would be the 400 mark, where the weekly 200 simple moving average resides on UNH. So UNH is on my downside radar as well. But one of the good shining key spots here on the Dow is Boeing. Boeing has been we've traded this a few times, I do believe, in the past few weeks. We've done put credit spreads, we've done calls. This one has just been, Boeing, I will say, is very tricky to trade. Even for experienced traders, you'll hear some frustrating stories about trading Boeing. But Boeing, you have this really nice bull flag pattern here shaping up on the weekly time frame. You obviously have a nice Darvis box where price has just been in this tight consolidation, and this thing looks ready to fire, to blast off to the upside. Now, we did get a breakout of this 218 level here on the daily. We're kind of retesting it and just kind of basing out even some more. Here on the daily, the momentum looks good here. You have some positive thrust. The hourly chart still looks good. Just taking a peek at that. So Boeing is definitely on my radar for some continued upside. You see, I got my targets already listed up here at about that 240 mark, maybe even to the 250s. So yeah, Boeing looks like it's ready to shoot off here. You got a nice little high compression squeeze. We have a crossover on the oscillator, and these signals are still very much so active. So if we do continue to, if the market kind of holds steady and the Dow wants to, if we get some rotation into Dow names, then for sure, I'm looking for Boeing to push on higher from here. So, and then obviously, I would have a hard stop if we had a close below the daily 21 down at 212. So that would give me a stop of about 8 points, and then a target of about 20 points higher. So not too bad of a risk reward, at least 2-1. So that's good. Moving on here, let's see. Let's take a look at crude oil. Now, crude oil, it's just not doing anything. We revisit crude oil every week, and I think for the past month or two, it's just been doing absolutely nothing. You could still argue, of course, just to reiterate, sure, this is a possible double bottom. It's just kind of just sideways. You got a daily squeeze, weekly squeeze, negative thrust. There's not really much to say until we get above 82, 83 zones. You're not even above the daily 200, so that's a big no-no for me. And then, of course, if you look at names, let's see, if we look at names like Oxy, you know, Warren Buffett's in it, but that's about it. If I were to look at this chart and just completely ignored the fact that Warren Buffett is buying every single dip imaginable in Oxy, then I would be telling you to, possibly grab puts and short this thing on down into the hole, at least to retest support at about 52 mark. But yeah, you're trading below the main moving averages. You're below the daily 200. You're below the year-to-date VWAP. You're below the daily 50. You're below the daily 21 EMA. You have a squeeze. You have active bearish signals here on the daily. Now on the weekly, you do have a squeeze. We need to see if that shapes up into anything, but you just can't seem to break above these key spots here. So there's nothing really too bullish about this chart. Even on the weekly, you could call this a rounded top, and you would still be looking for a move to break down below that 52.28 to confirm that rounded top. So, if I was to look at, Oxy as just from a technical standpoint, then yeah, I would be looking to grab puts. And it doesn't seem to matter what OPEC plus does, what the output is, or anything like that. Oxy is just not playing nice, so to speak. Now we are getting into the summer months. We have hurricane season going on, or starting at least. And I think last I looked, there was actually a level, not a level, area of interest that the NHC was watching. So of course, if there is any hurricane, especially any hurricane that moves into the Gulf, yeah, then we can definitely try to play off of that for sure and see if we can't take advantage of, possible supply constraints from that may be, as a result of any kind of hurricane. Of course, we don't want hurricanes to happen, it's all like, bad stuff. But from a trading perspective, that could be, drive prices higher. And that could also, that also helps the home builders like Home Depot, and Home Depot's on a watch here. It's probably got some work to do, but if Home Depot wants to break that 308, I just did a sidestep there from crude oil to home builders. That's fun. So if we do get a move up above 308, there is a nice gap to fill to about that 320 mark here on Home Depot. Definitely pay attention to that. I think it will take some time to maybe set up, but I definitely want to pay attention to this one for sure. If we want to compare that with Lowe's, yeah, Lowe's looks pretty darn good. Let's see, do have dividend being paid out later on in the month. Yeah, Lowe's looks great. Possibly, buy the dip also on here. Big volume on Friday. That's another kind of thing that I'm kind of looking out for. All these names that are super duper extended. Check out those volumes, see if any of them are kind of aggressive or higher than, above or higher than what it's been past few weeks. To see if we are starting to see some kind of profit taking. But Lowe's looks pretty decent. Another XLB name that I'm looking at is Lin, Lin. This name has been an absolutely in a nice uptrend. You can see here on the weekly, nice uptrend. Every pullback to the weekly 21 has been a buyable dip. And yeah, this thing is just ready to continue to march higher. Great shares play if you're into that. Let's see here. Moving on to, let's see. I know we still have some shares in Dexcom. We hit the 134 mark here on Friday. Now, as far as Dexcom goes, with the remaining shares that I do have, what I would like to see is if we do get a pullback here to 125.55, I would want 125.55 to hold. And then from there, our next target is going to be that 141 area. Of course, this might take some time, of course, and doesn't happen. Dexcom doesn't really trade too hefty there, but I am looking for a push higher into that 140 mark and continue on from there. But if we do get a pullback back to 125, that's fine. I just don't want to see it close back into the range there as far as Dexcom goes. All right, so we talked about crude oil. Let's go over to Nat Gas, the Widowmaker. Yeah, this one's kind of interesting. You do have a nice, kind of have a finally some signs of life here on Nat Gas. I don't know if y'all have any favorite natural gas tickers that you like to trade or keep an eye on. But as far as natural gas goes, yeah, nice yearly base that you're kind of breaking out of at the moment. Now you do need to clear this 268 level, and from 268 you got room to $3 there. All right, let's see. So nat gas, I personally don't trade nat gas futures. It's called the Widowmaker for a reason. Anything can happen, and it has happened. This thing just continues to, if you get caught off guard on the wrong side of nat gas, you can get screwed really quickly. So I don't trade futures on nat gas. We just kind of leave that one alone. Let's move on to Bitcoin. I know a lot of people have been noticing, of course, that Bitcoin is absolutely having a field day this weekend. It's trading at about 27K. And if we look at this trend line here, starting from the swing high at 31,000, we're starting to get that little breakout here. So nice trend line break here on Bitcoin. Yeah, sure, she hasn't done much. You've just kind of gone through this slow grind lower, but you're finally getting a nice little pattern move here. You got a good daily squeeze. You got some nice thrust signals here. So if Bitcoin can have a nice weekly close above this trend line, that could set a move for higher prices. Of course, we still have plenty of work to do as far as Bitcoin goes, but that sets the stage up for some of these minor names. Now, looking at some of these minor names, they haven't been going anywhere. But the key point is that they haven't broken down either. Case in point, Mara. We've been kind of watching this one for a few weeks now. Very tight squeeze. It's just been stuck in this range between 1065 and 850. And yeah, if this thing wants to break above, if Bitcoin wants to push higher, then yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at Mara. I am absolutely looking at Hut. Hut was probably one of my favorite penny names a while back ago. Now Hut is got a big resistance level at 250. If we can get a nice little break and a daily close above 50, I think that sets the stage up for a push back up to 370. And from 370, we can go from there. But I definitely like the way that Hut is behaving in regards to the movement of Bitcoin. You do have a nice little daily squeeze here, also weekly squeeze. You got some good signals overall, and the weekly, and then the hourly structure here is, you had a nice little thrust up here on the hourly. So, if Hut can stay above 250, I think this thing is poised to have a nice little move. So I might even throw some into Pennyland here and buy some Hut at, if given the opportunity. So I definitely like the looks of Hut. I like the looks of Mara. Those look good. Let's see. Let's take a look at the dollar just to kind of give it its respect here. The dollar, okay, it hasn't really done too much. You still got that double bottom kind of in play. But you haven't really moved much. You haven't gotten a revisit of the daily 200. If this thing were to break to the upside, you can see where my price target to the upside was at this 106 mark. But, we've just kind of quietly just been turning sideways, moving lower. Nothing too fantastic going on here. So we'll probably just kind of mosey on over. Let's check out gold for funds. GLD. All right, let's let that load up. Yeah, gold's just kind of doing absolutely Yeah, gold's been quiet as of lately. Entering a new daily squeeze on that. Ideally, I would like to see this break above 184 to push towards 190. But if you start to see GLD break below 180, then yeah, then you're probably looking at a move down here to the daily 200. So there's your mark right there, tight range. You could probably argue that if you want to. So break above 180, yeah, 185, 184. That could send the mood higher. But if you start to break down, it looks kind of ugly because you don't have support up until about this zone here. So we'll pay attention to that. But yeah, the stage is set here, guys. We've talked about how well the market has been behaving. We've been seeing healthy, clean rotation. We're seeing more names out there get above their respective daily 50 and daily 200 moving averages. So yeah, that is good. Anytime that the cues need a breather, it seems other aspects of the market tend to jump in and take control. So yeah, just kind of keep an eye, make sure the markets are rotating and behaving nicely. Other than that, buy the dip. Have a list of shopping list that you want to buy the dip names in. I'll give you a few names here that I am looking at this week. I'm looking at for tight consolidation names out there. JP Morgan, I picked up some shares here on Friday, I believe. I'm looking for this to break above 144. If we get a move above 144, you get a nice move up to 153. So JP Morgan, yeah, it looks pretty good here as it looks to try to break above. If the financials can get a move here, then I'm looking at JP Morgan. I still have a Bank of America call. If regional banks can, you know, get back up there, I'm still looking for a move towards this 30-50 mark. But overall and generally, I like the looks of JP Morgan. Burt B has been a very nice name to trade all year round. It's had a good move to the upside. I think we got out right about that 330 mark. Now, what I would like to see with Berkshire here is come back in, retest 21, and then go from there. So, a little bit airy here between the price action and the main moving averages, but that's okay. You still got that nice squeeze that we played off of here on the daily that fired long with upward thrust. And just overall and generally, I mean, this has just been a very healthy name out there to trade. So Burt B, yeah, keeping an eye on that one, just being patient with it. But right now, it seems the setup seems to be with JP Morgan. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on that one. I will also look into getting longer term contracts on JP Morgan as well. Let's see. Let me give you another one. Twilio, TWLO, another tight range compression name. Needs to break above this channel here, 6980, for a push to the upside. That's all we're trying to look for, is a break above this level to push towards that 76 mark. So Twilio, keep an eye on that. If not, if you break down below, of course, that sends it down. But yeah, getting a little interesting here. Obviously, it might not happen. It might happen. We'll see. Let's see. Let me give you Roblox. Yeah, Roblox has been as at an interesting spot here too. Now it's had some trouble here at about this 42, 43 mark. We'll just give that a zone. How about that? Once it gets above this 42, 43 level, then you have a nice gap to fill up here towards 45. So I'm liking the looks of Roblox. Resistance is resistance until it ain't, and until we break through. Just got to be patient here and wait for this to move higher. You do have, there's that large volume node. You got a good daily squeeze. You got some active thrust here. So I might be nibbling here on Roblox this week. I think Rather might be in Roblox already. I'll have to double check with him. So Roblox looking for a push above that 43 mark to push into that gap fill for a quick trade there on Roblox. Got that one down. We talked about some downside names such as AMD and UNH. Just to reiterate, AMD has come off a little bit harder, more so than some of the other semiconductor names. If we do get a continual weakness in the Nasdaq and semiconductors, yeah, we'll see if she wants to revisit that 116, 115 mark. Of course, there is that gap below that we can pay attention to. Looking at some of these other names, Apple, of course, is very strong. Uh, Still a little crazy extended, but if you notice here, every time that we have dipped this year to the daily 21, it has been a buyable dip. I mean, I don't see how more obvious it needs to be. So if we do get a pullback and we want to retest this dynamic 21 EMA, sure, that could be a another dip buy opportunity, and then off we go. But of course, I've been saying it, there's nothing bearish about a lifetime high name. So look for a continue, just a nice little, that'd be a good name on your shopping list if you're not in Apple. That'd be a good buyable dip. Of course, Apple's probably been in my long term since I remember. So never haven't been sold at all. Microsoft, yeah, lifetime highs. Yeah, just another name, just needs to kind of cool off a little bit. But not chasing, but not selling my shares either. Let's go to Nvidia. Nvidia, we talked about Nvidia. If this thing wants to continue to push, very strong weekly candle here. Sure, it's extended, but that don't mean it can't keep on going. 447 will be your first target, followed by 500 if Nvidia really wants it. And I think Voodoo's prediction there was like back to 500, even when it split again. I think he predicted 500, 600. We got it pinned somewhere in the Discord. But all right, so we got Roblox. Oh, another one. STNE. Yeah, STNE. Nice consolidation here on the daily 21. You have a daily squeeze with some upward thrust here. Yeah, the nice little base trying to form this. I could say it's just getting a little tight and compressed. Yeah, on the weekly chart, you can see you've had this pretty strong formation here. Bottom is just seems to be in down at the lows at about that 8.5 level, maybe. Look for STNE to have a good pop here to the upside at about towards 15. If we can get it, I think that'd be a good one to keep an eye on. Let's go over to Visa is another one. And yeah, Visa, you have a little bit of a mini channel here that you kind of got to break through. So if we break above 230 on Visa, look for a move towards 235. Of course, if you break above 235, then we could talk about, a possible move back to 250. So Visa's getting a little interesting. Of course, we have to pay attention to, the delinquency rates and all that kind of good stuff, especially if you compare it with other names like Discover, which Discover is actually looking pretty darn good. Capital One, I don't think was having too much of an issue either. Yeah, Capital One seems fine. AXP, American Express, just kind of go through the list. Yeah, AXP also looks fine. Sideways, but fine. Call flow, there we go. So A's there saying had a lot of call flow. Was that last week or was that the week before? One. Okay, yeah, so we can go back and look at those AXP okay. Benefits. Yeah, it's a purchasing card. Yeah, I know the company that I used to work for, the owners, I mean, they use their Amex for literally everything. Got to get them points. Speaking of travel, like you mentioned, Delta, UAL. I mean, this thing is all to the races now. We played Delta, what was it, last week and a half ago? And we captured the move all the way up to the 40 level. Now, obviously, it blew out my expectations and just absolutely ripped through this resistance level at 40 and just kept on going. So for Delta, yeah, it's it's a little bit too juiced at this price point. I need to get a retest at least, and then try again. But Delta, yeah, this was a fantastic trade that we played. I think a few other analysts call it Delta as well. So Delta, look for a pullback, a healthy pullback. There's nothing wrong with a dip. Same thing with UAL. If you want, you can use the ETF. So UAL is right up here at its resistance level, at about that 53, 55 zone. So be on the look for that. If you want, you can just use the ETF Jets. Jets is right here at a resistance zone at that 2075. Look how it does this crazy move. I mean, Jets does not move like this a whole lot. You can see the last time it really had a aggressive move like this was back off the lows in January. But yeah, this thing is absolutely crazy. So if you played Delta and all that kind of good stuff last week, congrats, nice play. Overall, very very impressive stuff coming off of Delta, UAL. I believe even some of these cruise lines have also had a pretty good rip to the high. RCL has been very impressive off of its lows from July of last year. I mean, this thing, has pretty much regained the entire downward move and some at this point. So RCL, sure, it's a little extended. I would like to see a little bit of a pullback, maybe go from there, but you can still see here that the momentum on the squeeze histogram is still bullish, and there's nothing really to complain about there on RCL. Let's take a look at Tesla, because I know someone is going to be asking about Tesla at some point. So yeah, Tesla, it's a beast. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. This move it had just off the lows here. It looked like it was going to roll over and just die, but it did not. It said, nope, changing directions here. And now you are up here at the 260 mark. Could come down. And, like I said, it's hard to nibble here at the highs. I would like to see a pullback, at least retest this gap at about 242, 240 zone. If that gap can hold, great. And then, rip higher from there. But we do need to start to see some of these things base out, build support levels, take a breather, and then push to the upside. And, for me, this is just too frothy in itself right now. But we know that Tesla does Tesla things and keep going. So if Tesla wants to keep ripping to the upside, watch that 300 psychological point, and then that's going to be your next key zone there, especially on the weekly. If you look at your weekly chart, that's going to be your next hot spot for Tesla to take on. But I would like to see things just kind of cool down a little bit and develop from there. Nihil asking about Meta. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I don't think Tesla's going to disappoint on their deliveries and their earnings, uh, especially this quarter. I think Musk has been on it, and so is the company in general. So yeah, yeah, if they're buying, they're still loading up the calls on these option flows on Tesla, especially if they're shorter dated. If we start to see those shorter dated contracts coming in for millions of bucks, then yeah, we should probably pay attention to that. So if A said 280s, 300s, even, I think that's what you said. Two 290s for end of June. So it's not like we're coming up on that already. We're mid June already, so that's short dated. And if they're coming in, ah, yeah, that brings up a good point too. That if we're going to take a look at Tesla, we might as well look at ARC, because it's the number one holdings. And let's see, you got Zoom in there too, and I think there was some flow option in Zoom too, if I'm not mistaken. So if speculative, but Zoom, gosh, this thing traded at 600 during the COVID peak, and now we're down here at the 50 level. Yeah, but you got a daily squeeze here. So if we get a little up arrow here, that would definitely catch my eye. Of course, if we get above the daily 200, that would be even better. But you do seem like you are getting a nice little, uh, I would say it's a little bit of a double bottom, but it's a little offset. Yeah, it's a high low. And yeah, that's all you got to do is kind of clear this zone here of 70, 72, and then I think you're off to the races on Zoom. Although, I don't know. I need to look into their earnings report to see what they got going on, if they're trying to change stuff up and exactly how they're trying to maintain revenues and all that kind of good stuff. So I probably need to do some research on Zoom. And then of course you got Roku. I think Roku's another name in ARC. All similar, yeah. Yeah. So okay, so Roku's not actually terrible here. You got a nice little base here, forming at that 70 level. You do got a dark blue tick here on the squeeze. So if we see another dark blue tick, I think that's a little bit of a red flag for me. But if we start to see, you can see that we do have a weekly squeeze. So maybe we'll start to enter a daily squeeze and we can push on above 76. So this could be an interesting spot here to kind of play with Roku. We'll have to see, especially with the broader markets. Roku's probably going to go down if the broader markets want to have a little bit of a breather. Yeah, that could be an interesting one. But yeah, ARK K, uh, yeah, if you're going to play Tesla, or if you want to have a cheaper play than Tesla, maybe try some ARK K. I will say that we've had this bullish cross here on the moving averages back at the beginning of the month, and this is the first time that's happened in quite some time. Looking at the weekly signals on ARK-K, so we had our negative signals down here with the crossover with the oscillator, and we're just now seeing upward thrust signals. So it's been since what, October of 2021 to our first signal in April of this year. So, that's a that's pretty interesting signal to kind of go over. So, yeah, ARK-K. Let's see if we can see what happens at this resistance level at 45, and try to build up and go from there. So it could be interesting. Maybe a fun little nibble. Uh-huh. There you go. Oh yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, if you want a cheaper uh play, I guess if you don't want to play Tesla, you can play ARK. Coinbase. Yeah, now Coinbase. So Coinbase, yeah, yeah. Now I know Coinbase is getting hit with that lawsuit or whatever by the SEC, and Bitcoin is doing a okay. So it might be interesting to see what Coinbase does. But if I'm going to play any Bitcoin names, Mar and Hut are going to be my two there. But yeah, Coin, it's not behaving right to me for some reason. I'm kind of thrown off by Coin a little bit, but you do have clean levels to work with as far as Coin goes. Now, if there's option flow, of course, it's speculative and all that kind of good stuff. But if you do get a move above 72, you got a nice gap to fill. 67. So we did get this interesting support, support, support. Now it's resistance. Is it going to be resistance again? Of course, Bitcoin's had a good weekend, so I imagine Coin is going to be gapping up tomorrow, and we'll just kind of see where it goes from there. So yeah, Coin could be, yeah, yes, true, true, yeah, yeah. There you go. Go ahead, go ahead.
been in like a strong high factory, and then that was Tesla's bottom. It's just since then it's been up, right? So.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on Coinbase for sure. We've got some speculative call option to go along with Tesla, Roku, Zoom, all the ARK names. A lot of fun. But yeah, if you just want to play all of them, just buy ARK K. If you like Kathy Wood and like what she's got going on there, but if you want to play this as a technical play here, watch this 45.50 mark to push towards this prior peak at about 52.50. And then like A says there, you do have an inverse head and shoulders pattern possibility. If this wants to break out, then yeah, you could be looking for a juicy move back up to the 60 to 70 zone on that. So yeah, nice shout there. All right. Okay, so Plum Dog is just asking a general question there. Meta, sorry, Nihil. Meta. All right, so Meta and really just the communication sector in general, if we want to take a look at the communication sector overall. Now, the communication sector pretty much led everything down when we were in the bear market off the highs of 86. You can see just a very aggressive move. Now, you'll see that we are at the 50% retracement level at the 65.60 level. So just keep that in mind. We're at resistance levels here just on the Fibonacci. We are still a little extended. But the communication sector in general has been absolutely amazing. You got names like Netflix, which Netflix has had an incredible run off of their earnings, their password crackdown. You do have a hot level here to work with at 458 on Netflix. You also have names like Google. But when I'm looking at names like, if I'm looking at Meta here, yeah, Meta has just been, for the past 2 quarters, has been incredible. It's been resilient. It's been fun to day trade. I think there hasn't been a day that has gone by where we haven't touched Meta, whether that's me or, one of the other analysts. Someone out there is playing Meta, it seems. But this thing has been on an absolute rip roar for the past 2 or 3 earnings. Anytime that we've had a dip to the 21, it has been a buyable dip. Granted, we are at that +3 ATR level. So yeah, it's a little hard to nibble up here at about that 290 level, and I would like to rather buy it down here at that 270, 260 zone and see if we can't load the boat yet again and ride the wave back up. You got good volume coming in again. Yeah, there's nothing to complain about it at all. Even if I look at the hourly chart here, the hourly chart still looks pretty darn good. Sure, you do got some condition that is overbought, but that's, that can remain overbought if it wants to. So here with Meta, it's just hard to buy up here. I don't want to short it, and I don't want to buy it. It's just one of those names where it's the strong is being incredibly strong. They've actually been even running really well, even off the Apple AR news and their product, which I think the two are actually very, very different. AR is augmented reality, where Meta is like this whole different universe. So very different products. I will be curious to see if Meta is able to come up with something. I don't know if they really want to try to compete against Apple or use whatever technology that they may have access to kind of work with that. But as far as Meta goes, yeah, I'm not interested in buying up here, but I'm also not interested in shorting either, just because it's so strong. Now you could have a good short and trade it back to the mean down here to the 21. Sure, that could work, but it really is hard to short these names that are absolutely leading the charge here. So Meta, I don't want to buy up here. I'd rather buy down here at about that 270, 265 zone and kind of go from there. But yeah, overall, Meta's been a market leader all year long. I have nothing negative to say about it. Meta has absolutely turned things around. From the bear market days. We thought, they changed their name to Meta. Is the metaverse going to be a dud? Revenues seem to be improving, and they seem to be trying to head in the right direction. They have other aspects to their business that are generating revenue. So yeah, it's just pretty fascinating stuff. Pretty fascinating times that we live in with some of these companies. So yeah, Meta, I'd buy the dip at about 260, 270. I wouldn't mind that. All right, let's see. Any other? Oh, Intel. Sorry about that. Yeah, we can look at Intel now. Intel, they had news tonight. They had news that they were. Let me go find it, and I'll tell you. They had some kind of partnership with Germany. Let's see if Benzinga will load up for me. No, they had something here. Yeah, Intel discloses a 32.7 billion investment in Germany, projects creation of more than 10,000 jobs. So disclosing investment money of over 30 billion euros. So they're expanding, which I think they're still building their new plant in Arizona. I think that's where it was at, in Arizona. Intel announced an investment of 4.6 billion test facility in Poland. So yeah, Intel's making moves here. Intel's been kind of quiet, especially when you have competitors such as Nvidia, AMD, Qualcomm, Oracle, etc. I know chips in general has just been a very, very competitive sector out there. And finally, we're starting to see some market life in Intel. Now, we all know, and we talk about this a lot within the Discord, is that Intel is a great company. Terrible trading name. So if you're investing in Intel, I mean, if you look at it, you haven't gone anywhere in years. 2014, you're pretty much trading at the same prices. So yeah, Intel very hard to kind of be involved in. It's been fun to day trade as of lately, it seems, just because we're perking up. Now you do have a level here to kind of go off of. You have gap resistance here at about this 37.70 level. If you get above that, sure, you could get a possible run towards 40. But just know you are at resistance levels and you are a little extended. So it's at one of those spots too where I'd rather wait for a little bit of a pullback, maybe retest 34 of this breakout and then go from there. But yeah, as far as that goes, sure. This is probably a really good name to do the wheel strategy. I'd be kind of curious if there are any wheel guys in here that do Intel Core, but yeah, Intel's been perking up as of lately, very strong, very good moves. It's been a long time since Intel's had a move like this. They've just lost a lot of market cap from AMD and Nvidia and other competitors. Let's see. Yeah, just keep in mind, you're right here at resistance. I would like to see a little bit of a pullback and then go from there, maybe form up a new squeeze, whether that's on the hourly or 30-minute, possibly, and then go from there. I mean, look at this hourly chart. I mean, this is absolutely, incredible. That's a very strong trend. Very strong trend. So if you've played this, I mean, congrats. Nice win. Nice play. All right. Baba. Okay, so looking at some of these China names, we've gotten news and we know that the Chinese government is looking to stimulate their economy and they're going to be being pumpers. So FXI, this is the China large cap ETF. This will affect names like Baba and all that kind of good stuff. So Baba, FXI, excuse me, it's a little bit hard to kind of gauge, but you'll see that you're right at the year-to-date VWAP. That's what that dotted blue line is. But you're back over the daily 200. You're looking to get another cross of the 21 above the 50. That would be bullish. Now, if you're looking at the weekly chart, it's just it's more gross than it is anything else. It's not the most prettiest thing to look at out there. So if we take a look at Baba, let's say, all right, so Baba, all right, you do have these tradable lows down here at 80. So if you bought down here at 80, I mean, you pretty much did great on that. Let's see. Histogram here is looking good. I would like to see an up arrow here for me personally. As you see here on the weekly chart, you haven't gotten a weekly up arrow and never. Uh, so we need to take baby steps here as far as Baba. We know Baba's fun to day trade. Usually when Baba runs, it tends to run pretty well. But it's just kind of iffy. But if the Chinese government is going to be pumping, then yeah, I would be looking for a move to 103.60. And then of course, once you get above here, things can get a little bit more interesting towards 115. Now, if things don't want to behave properly, I would like to see it, really break down. It's almost in no man's land for me, because you're right here in the middle. You're trading at 92. Here's your upward resistance at 103. Here's your support down here at 79.80 level. So you're about halfway in between both support and resistance. So for me, this is no man's land. If I was better at changing colors, this would be a pink X, because I probably wouldn't touch it here. To be honest with you, I would be looking for day trades, but I wouldn't be looking for swing trades, just because you are in the middle of this range between 103 and 80. Let's see. Boeing. Yeah, we'll recover Boeing real quick. Boeing, you have a nice flag here on the weekly channel here. You got a nice trend line break as well. Boeing's been really nice to us in the past. We've traded a few times already. You could have this nice base breakout, and you can see my targets here are at about that 240 to 250 zone. So if we continue to hold above 220, really 212, 210, that's a good signal for me to push this on higher. Now, Boeing can be hard to trade. Ask any experienced trader. Boeing can be a little bit of a headache. But with that being said, you have this nice Darvis box breakout, or, if you want to look at the weekly, you got a nice little bull flag here on the weekly that it's looking to break out of. And there's your upward targets on Boeing. Now, if you do get a daily close back under this trend line, then yeah, it's a little bit of a warning flag to me. So I would like to see this continue to hold and base out and fire higher, but I don't see any reason as of right now that it shouldn't do that, other than we need to be mindful of the broader market movement for sure. So I like Boeing a lot. It's on my watch list yet again for this week, and we'll keep an eye on it. All right. Any other questions? Any other tickers? We will be happy to take a look at it. And just another reminder, you get me tomorrow and Wednesday, and that's it. Then I'm off to Orlando for the Stock Dads annual staff meeting. That'll always be fun. Let's see. And of course, if y'all want to have live trading sessions, y'all are more than welcome to do that. Y'all don't need us for that, but just want to make sure everyone's aware. All right, going once, going twice. All right, let's have a good week. Short week. We got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But yeah, we'll be around, of course. We just probably won't be as active because we're dealing with business. But yeah, SPY, NASDAQ, they look great, just a little bit extended. Needs to take a breather, build a base, and kind of go from there. Any dip out there, most likely a buyable dip. So have a shopping list. If there's something that you missed and want to, have an opportunity to play, then yeah, just have a list written out, what the level is that you want to be a buyer at, and play from there. So this market is really strong. Buyers are very aggressive. Sure, there's still divergences out there, but that's all they are right now. There's nothing to really act upon. This market is very frothy. I just would say just be a little cautious, because we are so extended to the upside. The put to call ratio is elevated for the call side, meaning that there's some complacency out there, and everybody and their mother is long at this point in time. And we know that the market is an equal opportunity dream killer. bears get wrecked like we have seen over this past incredible 3 weeks, especially on the Nasdaq. Uh, a lot of puts expired worthless during the monthly OPEX. So we'll see. What this next week has in store for us, of course. And now that we've gotten monthly OPEX, what the new balance of things is going to be. So let things open up. Be patient. Look for your setup. Look for those buying opportunities. And yeah, don't really be afraid of a dip buy, because dip buys bring opportunity at this point in time. But all right, y'all have a great evening. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And I appreciate y'all coming out, hanging out this evening. I know it's late. But yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much.